The following video is presented by Audience on Demand, programmatic solutions from Vivaki. For more information, go to audienceondemand.de.
Today's subject of this panel is about the opportunity of programmatic mobile. Mobile remains a huge pain point for publishers across Europe, not only in Germany. The yields, the CPMs from mobile remain very, very small. Two companies seem to be benefiting from mobile, and that's Google and Facebook, while the rest of us kind of scratch a living trying to figure out how we can make money from this area. So today, I guess, the conversation is going to figure on the opportunity around mobile, how we as an industry can actually make more money for publishers, and obviously increase up the opportunities for ROI for advertisers as well. So before we jump into the discussion, I'll just let the esteemed panel introduce themselves briefly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ciaran. So my name is Tom. I'm CEO of Adsquare. Adsquare is a mobile audience data company that concentrates only on data on mobile. As there is a big shift in mobile, in consumer behavior towards mobile, I think it's really important to have scalable data on mobile. This is what we offer at Adsquare. We integrate our data into market-leading DSPs and work together with all media agency trading desks, independent trading desks. Happy to be here.
Hi, my name's Paul Gubbins. I work at Millennial Media. We're a very large mobile marketplace, and we enable our buy-side partners to work with us either programmatically through our ad exchange, or they can access our publishers' inventory via a managed service.
Yeah, some of you might have seen me before today. Dimo, Velev, General Manager of OpenX, and we are also deeply into the mobile business.
So, gentlemen, thanks very much. Obviously, mobile is a fragmented universe. We have mobile web and we have the app world, and never the twain shall meet in many ways. The first question really is about the opportunity of programmatic and mobile. Can it knit this fragmented universe together? Is it possible to bring this ecosystem together, and programmatic is the thread that will help us do targeting and run campaigns and run more money through the system?
Good question. So I personally think that the question of knitting the fragmented ecosystem together, that is an important one. There is fragmentation in mobile between web and apps, but I don't know if that is so important at this stage. So if we look at the numbers, as said, there is a massive shift towards mobile consumer behavior. But if you look at internet usage today, then mobile internet usage is mainly happening in apps. So 80% of mobile internet usage is happening in apps. So the app ecosystem is way more important than the web or mobile web ecosystem. And luckily, we have very persistent device identifiers for this ecosystem. So we have IDFA and Google Advertising ID specially made for this ecosystem. And these are luckily very persistent mobile identifiers with a lifespan, average lifetime value of 10 times greater than cookies. So I think there's a really, really big opportunity there to run data-driven advertising campaigns on mobile.
Paul?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note as well that you can track in mobile web. So it's very much dependent on the requirements of the buy side. People always say, why is everything being driven towards the app ecosystem? But most of the DSPs that we work with within our exchange ask to proactively target in-app inventory. And that's back to your point, Tom. It's around them being able to access that persistent form of identification, i.e. the device ID. Yeah. And what we're finding is, Ciaran, that lots of our partners are starting to build a robust targeting audience around these IDs. In mobile web, yes, you can target, but everything is post-click rather than post-impression. And I think that's been a real difficulty for lots of people that have been used to trading, I guess, in a desktop landscape, bringing that mentality to mobile, where they're looking at windows of attribution. Is it 15 days? Is it 30 days? Because there hasn't been that persistent ID that works across mobile browsers, everything is post-click rather than post-impression. But it is important to note that you can track in both mobile web and in app environments.
Dimo.
Yeah, I see it pretty similar. What I also see is, yes, in-app traffic is very huge. Sometimes we see a problem that there are so many SDKs already integrated into apps that if you want to come up and say, look, I'll monetize it for you, then they say, pooh, do I need another SDK? So that's why we have to find other ways how we can ease in the monetization of that. And other point that I've seen is that, I mean, mobile web exists, and there are many publishers outside from the former online industry.
So like new publishers, new app-only sort of publishers.
Well, what I've noticed is some of these publishers have built apps before they've optimized their mobile site.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way. That's like a two-rail way that you have to go, because there's still a lot of mobile web users outside, and some people are getting tired. That's like a kind of fatigue of downloading apps.
So we'll come back to that in a minute, but let's talk about Facebook. Obviously, we had Cameron here from Facebook talk about how great Facebook's people-based marketing, ID, everybody uses Facebook. But it just feels to me that there's a big issue for the independent space. Facebook is basically sucking up all the mobile spend in Europe. I mean, you saw the stat there, 64% of their revenue is mobile only. They have an ability to do cross-device because everybody has, well, apart from the sensible people like myself who got off Facebook 2 years ago, everybody else has Facebook open on either their desktop or their mobile.
Correct.
How big of a problem is that for the rest of us? I mean, this goes back to our problem of we used to have a centralized a cookie that we could use in desktop, i.e. the double-click cookie, which was prevalent everywhere. We could piggyback off the back of that, and we could build attribution and targeting and all the type of things we need to kind of see more and more spend go into that space. So how do we, as an independent space, build something similar to Facebook and Google and stop them? And it literally is now a point of stopping them taking all the spend.
Well, first of all, I would like to address a problem out there in the market that is, well, Facebook and Google are obviously that successful in mobile because they do not only sit on tons of login customer data, but they have mobile as a pre-selected campaign option. So as you said, 73% of Facebook's revenues in Q1 were shown on ads on mobile devices. But that is due to, to a discussion that is not really happening. Are you doing mobile? Are you doing desktop? Are you doing tablet? It's just one channel.
So just to your point, the agencies are buying Facebook as opposed to buying mobile. So when they buy Facebook, coincidentally, it's on mobile because most people are using mobile anyway.
Pretty much, yeah.
And you think that's an option we haven't been really offering as independent?
Exactly. I think that publishers need to, what they need to do is, first of all, they need to open their inventory to Programmatic. Then they should think about sharing data themselves, bundling data with other publishers like companies like Laplace Media in France are doing very successfully. And they should really think about how to build these similar data assets like Facebook is doing. So taking into account that people access their content from various different devices, building up device graphs, so trying to connect the dots between mobile, tablet, and desktop, and actually sharing this data with potential customers.
So Paul, we missed the trick in terms of the collective approach as opposed to this kind of go it alone.
I think one of the earlier panelists were talking about new allegiances within the ecosystem to try and fight off the big vendors. If you look at recent announcements from Facebook, maybe I can be, somebody can correct me here, but I think they're going to block any advertisers that want to run app install campaigns. Well, not block, but they're going to stop passing out the device identifiers. Back to your point, Tom, they're talking about it's user targeting at all levels. They're not going to say this came from desktop user or this came from this device ID XYZ. So to your point, Ciaran, it's around, are there going to be 6 or 7 different platforms that everybody is forced to use because they are the only platforms that you can access that first-party data within? If that's the case, we're effectively going backwards as an industry because the buy side is going to have limited visibility around who their users are. So things like attribution, global frequency capping, are going to become very difficult to do because you can only do it within the environment that gives you their particular identifier. You won't be able to then go and append that intelligence to another environment where that impression didn't originate. So it's a difficult question to answer. It probably sound like I'm rambling. But back to Tom's point, we're seeing new companies build out forms of delivering probabilistic identification, and that's a direct result of these big people like Google, Facebook, and Amazon really taking ownership back of their data and controlling it and saying they won't pass it back out to the buy side. So I think until we figure out the levels of accuracy in this form of identification, it's going to be difficult for buyers to figure out how they manage things like attribution and frequency.
But the probabilistic route is obviously Facebook is using deterministic actual data they know about logged data. And probabilistic is there's a probability that you could be wrong.
Correct.
I mean, is that the answer? Because let's be honest, everybody in this room is not working for Facebook and Google, right? Let's be brutally honest. We're fighting a war against them in Europe. Like, they're taking all our spend, and it's our spend. We're Europeans, right? At the end of the day, that's what we want to spend, not going through the Caribbean and not paying any tax. We'd like to pay tax in Germany and Ireland and everywhere else. But I mean, sorry for that. Is that Neil Mohan? I'm sorry, Neil. Neil, I'm sorry. But my point is that a realistic solution?
It's absolutely realistic. If you look at Nielsen has started to verify, I think they've recently verified Tapad over 90% accurate, Drawbridge over 93% accurate. And this is a really credible and viable alternative to working with vendors that push you through their execution layer. So yes, there are deterministic models out there, Ciaran, Facebook, Google, Amazon. However, at what cost? Do you have to give them your most valuable and prized assets, your data, just to get a single view of your customers? Yes, you can do, and you'll get great scale there and great efficiencies. However, there are alternatives, and they've been verified by third-level adjudicators to be very accurate. And what they're doing is PII compliant, because it's a probabilistic form of identification. Yes, it's not 100% accurate, but at 95 or 93 or 91% accurate, is that a good trade-off if it means you get to keep your own data?
Yeah. Dimo, you obviously work with publishers on a daily basis.
Yep.
I mean, is that collective approach, are we getting close to that? Or particularly in mobile, we don't really have anything in the arsenal that can compete with these big guys. I mean, is that collective approach becoming a reality now?
Yeah, let me say that. I mean, the guys you mentioned, they're also big in the desktop world. So that's not a mobile-only topic. I wouldn't even call it an issue, because if you look out there, we've increased our mobile revenues, and we're not working for Facebook and not working for Google. And still, there's money out there. And this morning, we had this nice BMW example. I cannot imagine that these guys will only advertise or spend all their advertising money on Google and Facebook or Amazon when you mentioned them. So there's room enough. What we and also the publishers have to learn is how to create or how to make their audience to better know it and to make it more attractive.
Okay. So let's talk about something that's actually really important in mobile is creatives. The banner has been the standard sort of ad creative in desktop. Is the banner dead in mobile? Should we be thinking a little bit more creative? I mean, the two formats that kind of stand out to me most are the native format, native to the design and the look and feel of the mobile and sort of the flow of the actual design, and in video. I mean, should we be saying, let's get rid of the banner and let's go straight to the high yield, high CPM creatives?
Well, we could.
I know it's a controversial question.
It is. I think in a fragmented ecosystem, standards are a must, and I think the banner is still a standard out there. And the banner did great work in the past and is still doing. So I think the banner is not dead. The banner will be there in the future. I think other ad formats like native, video, rich media, they offer great potential for advertisers and for publishers. And I think that publishers need to adopt to these creatives, to these formats. But overall, for us as a data provider, that is not key. It's more about tying together also data with ad creative. That is actually most interesting, as we saw this morning with the BMW example. So tying together these ad creatives with the right user profiles, that is key.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously close to the action here.
Again, it's a controversial question, but I think the banner is far from dead. If you look at the majority...
I just said in mobile, not desktop.
Okay, of course. Okay, in mobile. I still think it's early days in mobile. If you look at the majority of spend that's flowing through the programmatic pipes in mobile, it's still performance-based. However, with the advent of HTML5 and smartphones becoming more capable to deliver rich experiences, we're seeing HTML5 ads built out by vendors like Celtra are really encouraging brands to spend more in mobile. So you can do things with a mobile device that you can't do with a desktop computer, with an outdoor signage, with a television. You can take advantage of the native capabilities like the accelerometer within the phone that enables you to move the creative, immerse yourself within the creative. And this is what we're seeing. A lot of the branding buyers now are only running rich campaigns. So there are several big agency groups in Europe that have already put their hands up publicly and said, we only want to run HTML5 rich ads when we do things on mobile.
And what specific metrics are running around that?
Okay, so you can look at interaction, open time, dwell time, share through. It's fully trackable. You can execute all of that programmatically. You can append your own first-party data segments to target those rich media creatives. You can overlay third-party segments to make to build out that view of who the end user is. So I think the mobile banner is still very much alive, but it's predominantly being leveraged by performance buyers. And then the branding buyers that are starting to run campaigns within mobile private marketplaces, 9 times out of 10 are doing so executing a rich media asset.
Sorry.
Well, one thing to add to the specialties of mobile that AdSquare as a company is mainly operating on, and you all maybe know this, it's location. So location data is really, really valuable in mobile, and we don't have that in desktop. So what we as a company do is we take location behavior of users and we build user profiles over time based on their location data. So for us, location is a really, really strong indicator of people's interests, preferences, and intentions. And this is something very, very interesting that desktop does not have. So we can build user profiles over time based on this kind of data. We can measure store visitations. We can connect this and attribute this to advertising campaigns. So I think there's a very, very strong asset in mobile with location.
That's kind of would that be not more sort of attuned to a push campaign? Yeah. I mean,
no.
Like you're in local and you're like, no text messages.
No, it would be about building out a greater understanding of where somebody has been, what their habits are, what their likely demographic breakup would be as a direct result, and then using that rich data set to really drive targeting programmatically. So absolutely no, it's not about push notifications, and that's where the market was many years ago, Ciaran.
It's really about looking into bitstream data, into location data, and mapping that location data of customers connected to a user profile, to additional data on top, so to contextual data on top, so for example, POI data, point of interest data. So I could easily target users that have been to, for example, BMW retailers in the last 3 months, which gives us a great idea of a purchase intent for BMW, for example. Or I can use location that I have collected over time and matching this location data that I have to household data of companies like Axiom, Experian, Shoba, etc. So there's a really, really, really strong asset out there in location.
Sorry, Dimo, go ahead.
What I'd like to add here, so coming back to your initial question, banner is not very fancy, but it's not that. It's bread and butter still. I mean, if you look for the budgets that are being spent, it's still banner is very high up, like a 320 to 50 or whatever. We, for example, we have launched like more than a year ago. Native ad exchange for mobile, and that's a good thing, but what I see, the market still has to develop and to adopt it. Many people say, well, interesting, but okay, now come on, let's spend it on banner.
Yeah.
That's what we experience very much. And one more thing is we have to work, I'm totally in sync, we have to work on more clever, sophisticated ad formats for mobile, and there are nice things out there, but we have also to watch bandwidth problems. People pay a lot. So
video might be an issue over certain bandwidth.
And I mean, we're talking a lot about data, which is important, but I think overall we have to watch out not to disturb the user journey while they are surfing. So
a lot of people I talk to think that mobile video is the sweet spot potentially for publishers. How big is that opportunity then for publishers specifically? If the yield on banners is not rising at the rate they are, and most of the users are on mobile, it makes sense that if you're going to get £10 CPM for video play as opposed to one of these impressions for it's probably 50p or
it's a great opportunity. So what I've seen lately is a study from Opera. It came out they came to the conclusion that 15% of their ad requests are video, but revenues, it makes 55% of their revenues. So one can already see where the potential is here.
Yeah.
Paul, are you seeing more and more publishers kind of prepping themselves, pushing more mobile video?
Absolutely, but there is, back to one of the earlier panel's points, there is a scarcity of good quality video in mobile, unlike in desktop. So it's a challenge, and lots of these new businesses that are creating new formats that don't have to necessarily be supported in the traditional pre-roll or companion kind of way. So think about in-feed, in-stream. If those publishers can expose that inventory to programmatic demand, yes, that's a massive opportunity for the buy side in mobile. But at the moment, we see a lot of demand and not a huge amount of liquidity from the mobile publisher side to support that. I mean, that may be different from what you guys see, but...
What do you think?
Well, for us, as a data provider, video is also a really interesting topic because, our data that we provide this data for brand advertisers, and brand advertisers, they care about branding, and obviously video is a great format. So we're really excited about video picking up in mobile. We're integrating our data with DSPs like TubeMogul. So there is an opportunity for us in video, but overall we are independent of the format as a data provider.
So, I mean, this is going to sound very controversial, but obviously that's what we're here for. Traditional publishers obviously have had to move from online or from offline to online when digital sort of popped its head up. And the transition to desktop has been a fairly painful one, as we've seen. Publishers have been struggling since digital has arisen, and a lot of them are still struggling badly. Now, as we move to the next stage of the evolution of digital, which is the mobile revolution, their audience are switching across to mobile, but the same publishers are failing to transport the models they had differently done in the desktop into mobile itself. So we're seeing, obviously, now Facebook coming up to publishers and saying, listen, you don't need a mobile site. Let us be your channel, and we'll give you a cut of the ad spend against the content, which is an absolute huge mistake in my view, but that's just my own opinion. So my question is, the real successes in mobile have been the app first, the utility apps. So is that, our content publishers are always going to struggle in mobile? I know it just seems to me that they are in a constant battle, fighting, in terms of supporting the model they've built, which they're paying journalists, they're paying content creators, and it's almost a struggle because the monetization piece has not arrived yet. Yeah. Whereas if you've built a utility app, a weather app, a financial app, the resource to build that is much smaller. You can have a team of developers and just absolutely spank it on DR ads. So I'm just saying, are we going to see now some content creators go out of business because of mobile?
No, I don't think so. So I think mobile is for everybody, and it's not only for game publishers. It's also for utility apps, but it's also for newspapers. And of course, all these publishers need to make sure that they have a great mobile or app offering, and it's actually important for everybody out there in the space, because we see this massive shift in consumer behavior towards mobile, and I think it's really important to understand that we are actually no longer living in a mobile-first world. We are living in a mobile-only world. People do not put their phone down and then find a desktop to search something on the internet. They use their phone, and this is something that is really important for everybody, and that everybody needs to understand this. Not only utility app publishers, but every publisher.
Yeah, but we still have a problem, is that you're not downloading an app for every newspaper, or you're using Pulse, or you're using some other channel, whereas you're using Yahoo Weather, or you're using Google Maps or whatever. That's an app.
But I think that comes back down to the point of, if I'm a consumer, well, I am a consumer, if I have a preference to consume a particular type of content on desktop, the moment I pick up my phone or tablet, that preference doesn't change. It's about, again, the onus is on the publisher, back to your point earlier. So many publishers still aren't yet thinking about responsive design. They're asking our teams internally at Millennial, should we build out a mobile optimized website or should we build an app? It's crazy. But the reality is that your consumers and your customers for so many years have enjoyed what you've published. Just because they're consuming it on a mobile device, it doesn't change. It's your job to ensure that you deliver them content in a way that is it's going to work with the device that they're accessing it via. And that's where a lot of the guys are struggling. And I think a bigger challenge for them as well is it's about knowing where their customers are. For the last 10 years, it's been very easy for them to drop cookies on people's browsers, build out audience profiles and enrich that with their kind of offline data management platforms. Now you've got big newspaper groups that are generating 70-80% of their traffic via mobile device, and I don't know where those customers are coming from because they're coming in via different people's apps, they're coming in from mobile websites and browsers, and all of a sudden it's a massive blind spot, so it's a major concern to them. But no, I don't think it puts any of these guys out of business. I think the challenge is they really need to figure out how they start delivering that content to their existing customers, not new customers, but how they start engaging with people on the devices that those users want to access their content on. That's the challenge.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily compare a convenience app like Google Maps with a newspaper website. And also the typical Facebook user is doing different things or is different than let's say, the Wall Street Online or Telegraph or Bild.de or Spiegel or whatever user. These people, the others that I've mentioned, they have now, the one mentioned, they have very good mobile offerings and people are using them. So also the generations changed, older people, you see all of them in European countries, in well-developed countries, you see them with the most recent smartphones.
So I know we're tight for time, but just to continue that question, how do we bring, I'm going to finish in this question, I'll start with you, Dimo, and then we'll walk away to Tom. What do we need to do in this space? What's the key thing we need to do to kind of increase the yield for publishers? Right? We talk about great content creators, as you talked about there. How do they make more money from the advertising to at least try and pay the bills, keep the lights on effectively? We can't all have 1 billion zombie content creators like Facebook. We actually have to pay professional journalists. So what one thing do you think needs to change and how Programmatic can do that for yield to increase for publishers?
If I should start, so be aware of how strong your own content is and then be proud of your content and then create or help to create and think yourself of formats, maybe really special advertising formats, just designed for your app or your mobile site, that will attract the advertisers and don't annoy your users. That's what I think. So you have to think more out of the box and be more clever.
User conscious.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's about publishers, I guess, surfacing their data to the buy side. Too many publishers still don't do this in mobile. And I said earlier, there's a scarcity of video impressions. There's not a scarcity of just standard traffic. There's billions and billions and billions and billions of page impressions. So to make your one impression stand out, you need to enrich that with your own data. You can do that in a controlled way within programmatic environments. You can push that into a private marketplace. So I think that's one way that they can start to increase their yields. The second way, back to your point, is around the formats. How can they start thinking about native? How can they start baking in other formats above and beyond standard MMA sizes, again, to drive that bid density and increase their yields?
I'll let you finish.
I think publishers need also strategies on how to monetize on their data, on their existing data. So especially in mobile, again, with location, there's a great opportunity. Integrate location into your offerings. Try to identify where people go. Engage with the DMP. So collect data, build up user profiles proactively. Sell this data, open this data to advertisers. So this is something that publishers should do, I think.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Round of applause for our panel, please. And
Thank you.
Thank you.